So hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today from RiverWoods Durham as we continue our commitment to bring educational programs for both caregivers and families. I'm Kelly Fires, and I'm the Senior Living Counselor for Newfound Lodge at RiverWoods Durham. And before we begin, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about Newfound Lodge. Newfound Lodge at RiverWoods Durham is our brand new health center that will be opening this fall. And we'll be offering assisted living, enhanced assisted living, as well as memory support. And in the next slide, I'd like to just show you a little bit about our assisted living. Assisted living will have 1 and 2 bedroom apartments with kitchenettes and full baths with walk-in showers. There's a couple pictures there of our 1 bedroom model. And these apartments are designed for people who really need some assistance with activities of daily living, such as medication management, bathing, dressing, and grooming. And we will offer different levels of care, including enhanced assisted living, which is really our highest nursing level of support. And this is really for the resident that really needs that full level of care. And we will have 12 suites in our enhanced assisted living. And on the next slide, I just want to tell you a little bit about our memory support. Our memory support community is designed in a small household model. In each memory support small household includes 12 private suites, which are surrounded by a shared living room, dining room, and open-style kitchen. And this really fosters a more home-like environment. And the memory support program provides individualized care and services for residents who have Alzheimer's or other cognitive decline. And people living at Newfound Lodge will have access to 24-hour nursing care, dining services, daily educational and recreation programs like you're going to see here today, and many other services and amenities. And most important, person-centered care. RiverWoods is really known for their person-centered care, as we want people to reach their highest level of independence as possible. If you know someone or have a loved one who needs more support in their daily life, please tell them about Newfound Lodge and this opportunity. People can now reserve the residence of their choice for when we do open this fall. So in the next slide, I just would like to provide my contact information. Again, you could go to our website for more information, or please call me, Kelly Fires, directly, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And we can also schedule a virtual tour. And again, I want to thank you for joining us today for this important educational program. And I just want to also tell the viewers, if you have any questions at all during the presentation, just type them in the Q&A section, and we will answer all your questions at the very end of the presentation. And our topic today is Redefining Dementia, Finding Joy Along the Journey. And I'd now like to introduce our speaker today, Jack York, who is co-founder of It's Never Too Late. And he's going to tell you more about that now. Hey, thank you, Jack. Welcome.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. And I'm commending myself for doing an excellent job on these slide transitions. I think
you did a wonderful job, Jack. Thank you.
I nailed it. Yes. So anyway, this was going to be a presentation in front of a whole bunch of people and live, and we're all learning to do things differently. So
we really
I'm glad you guys are willing to kind of try it a different way virtually. And it really is. I think that there's so much angst right now, and there's so much. Just we've all been through a lot. Anybody that's touching senior living has had to deal with a hell of a lot over the last 3 months that's really been difficult to try and manage. So the message that I have is I don't want to be dismissive of all the seriousness that's out there, but it's also, I think it's okay to take a breath a little bit and just have joy, to just celebrate the joy of people living with dementia. And what this presentation about, it's really a twofold presentation. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is just this incredible journey that I went on last year that was so impactful for me, and in an entertaining way, and also in somewhat of a profound way. I'll walk you all through that. I'm also going to talk a little bit towards the end just about some of the things that are happening technology-wise because of COVID that frankly have been a positive thing, have been a positive way to try to repurpose how we do some things. And I think that again, there's a lot to have a little angst about, but there's a lot to be to feel good about. And I just think that just in looking, Kelly, at some of the slides you were showing, I think, without getting into the details about it, I think what you're doing neighborhood-wise, the way that the layout works, it's maybe it wasn't intentionally designed that way, but it really does fit with the realities of the pandemic and how to deal with it as we going forward. So with that, I'm going to take you on the 60-20 tour. No other way for me to say it. I was delighted to turn 60 last year. I was all stressed out when I was 50 and all kinds of stuff going on. I thoroughly enjoyed being 60 and relished it. So I turned 60 and our company turned 20 last year. I was living the good life in the Silicon Valley and never thinking of it as a business. A friend of mine had the idea to donate some computers to a local assisted living community. And it wound up being such a positive thing for me and such an inspirational thing for me that we started IN2L just from that donation. And so this 20-year journey, and our company has all been about how do you keep people connected? How do you keep them engaged wherever they are, physically or cognitively? And so I turned 60, the company turned 20. So we had this somewhat whimsical idea of, let's have a trip of gratitude to we have over 3,000 senior living communities around the country who are part of the IN2L family. And so we got a van and said, hey, let's drive around and say thanks to people. And then one of my friends, as we were planning the journey, had said, you know what, why don't you do carpool karaoke when you go by communities? And so it turned into this whimsical journey that I'll take you along over the next 30 minutes and welcome to the show. So this is it. There's the IN2L van that that I got to know extremely well from July through November last year. We got some GoPro video cameras set up and set it all up. And so I would just show up. We'd have a birthday party, and then we'd get residents on the road that were willing to go along for the ride. And so the interesting thing for me on that trip is that, and I'll talk about this in a second, kind of my own prejudice of people living with dementia is that I had my own prejudices that, well, if we did this trip, we probably should have folks living with that are more independent residents than folks living with dementia. And you'll see in a second how that all came to play. And so before I get started, I do want to make one comment, because the world of dementia is kind of framed in a somewhat negative way. And so I have these 3 songs on here: Revolution from the Beatles, We Will Rock You from Queen, and You Can't Always Get What You Want from the Rolling Stones. And what do those 3 songs have in common? They were all B-sides of the old 45s that we used to listen to. Maybe half the people watching will know what that means. But bands would have their B-side songs out there that they didn't really know what would happen with them, but sometimes they turned out to be hits. And the reason I bring that up is because everybody knows the A side of dementia. And it's just the negative framing of the reality. And I understand it. It can be brutal for the person. It can be brutal for families. But that's all that you hear about is the just some of the negative consequences of it. So I bring that up because I am going to be talking when I take you on this journey with me. I'm not going to be talking about the tough stuff, but I know it's there. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it. I'm just trying to show the other side. And this woman right here, who you're looking at right here, that was from the very first stop that we made, Louisville, Kentucky, as they say. And every time I would go to a lot of these communities, they would have a theme for the birthday party. So because it was Louisville, they had it be the Kentucky Derby theme, and everybody was dressed up in hats and all this kind of stuff. But this was the first visit that we went on And so we had this lady in the car, and you'll see in a minute some of the video clips of what it was like. But we had the lady in the car, and I was talking to her, and I was telling her about my kids, and had this just really meaningful conversation with her, and just about her life and messages and things that mattered to her. And as the drive ended, maybe a 30, 45-minute drive, when it ended, pulled up to the independent living community, and the CEO, that's her in the red right there, Mary Haynes. It's in Kentucky at her community. And she told me, no, keep going, drive over to memory care. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. My after doing this for 20 years, I would have thought that I didn't have my own prejudices, but my own prejudices were that this trip should probably only have folks that were more independent in the van. And Molly was this woman's name, and her just the wisdom that she showed on this trip totally opened my eyes to, wait a second, let's have this thing be let's celebrate the lives of people living with dementia. And so that's kind of what it turned into, is story after story and trip after trip of just driving people around the community and playing songs and music. And what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is just show a few snippets of these stories. Every person I'm going to show is living with some level of dementia, but I think what they have in common is joy and their desire to keep telling their stories. So this first clip, it's two gentlemen living with dementia that they both used to be truck drivers. And so you'll see the inner truck driver come out of this. This was in Pennsylvania, in Amish country. And we'll let these guys sing for themselves.
Speaking of trucks. Throw the horn at him.
And so it was trip after trip of these kinds of experiences, this kind of joy. This woman right here, I had no idea. I would not know these people till I got them in the van. And this lady in the front seat here, she's a yodeler. The guy in the back was dressed up like Elvis, but the lady in the front seat, there's always a couple staff folks in the van as well that you'll see. But the lady's a yodeler, so why not let her yodel?
I want to string my guitar with yodel-lady-doo. The life that I love, the best yodel-lady-doo. Get out of here before I cry. And it's your horn too.
And so what would happen so many times in these experiences, so many times the staff would warn me, don't bring this up, or don't bring that up, or here's something negative that might happen. And those things never happen. You get people wherever they are cognitively. You get them out in an environment where they're having fun, where from my context, they're not having everything handed to them. They're just living life. And here's Pat.
We are delighted to have a car full of lovely women, but our star is right here in the front seat. It is Pat. And the coolest thing about Pat, a lot of cool things about Pat, but lean your head down a little bit. Check out this hair. Pat is living it, baby, living the blue hair thing. What kind of computer do you have?
I have a Mac, an iPad, and a PC.
Check it out, man. Pat's got it going. We are
So again, just story after story, experience after experience, and sometimes they would get poignant. This gentleman here had a whole story to tell, and you'll see at the end of the clip just the emotion that comes out after he was able to tell his story.
Did you ever go hunting?
First, it's two different clips.
What'd you like to hunt?
Me? I was up in Alaska, all the way up to the top. I'm in caribou.
On caribou, did you?
I caught one.
You got one?
I got two. Yeah, I got the racks. Rack, big one.
Do you know how much it weighed?
Big. He walked across outside a rock.
It's gone. One less caribou to go with one less turkey.
Gone.
Did you ever go hunting?
And so again, you have the joy of a person's experience, and then you'd have the emotion. This is a gentleman in the front seat, and this is in North Carolina, very much living with dementia. And throughout the trip, he had been somewhat disconnected. He had been a little bit disconnected to the whole experience. And his wife was in the back seat kind of talking about their journey together. And you'll see just the power of music in this clip when a song comes to them to him that just brought up just his whole memories and feelings with his wife. You can see the reaction that you get.
Where's my lover?
Right here.
There she is.
Get out of my seatbelt.
You sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love lights burning in your eyes so blue. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you.
Oh, it's such poignant stuff. And it was, it's hard to convey in a video clip from a office in Colorado, but man, I was in tears in some of these experiences. And the conversation I had with his wife after that drive, it was just so meaningful, to that whole perspective, or her perspective. And so I think, again, one of the many things that I learned through the experiences, I didn't have, baggage is the wrong word, but I didn't have any experience with these people in what they were like before they started living with dementia. So I didn't have any frame of reference. All I had was who they were right then and there. And who they were right then and there were incredibly cool people with incredibly good stories to tell. And maybe they couldn't tell you, what they had for breakfast, but they would tell you these life journey things that were so positive. And it was interesting just learning to not try to get them to any other place. Just let them just revel in where they
Where's
are
my lover?
at that moment. This is a lady in the back. It's kind of hard to tell in the clip, but she'll talk about it a little bit in this clip, but she's a tap dancer.
We used to tap dance New Year's Eve. We'd go to the theater, and before the movie started, we'd do some tap dance.
Like a show?
There was always like a show.
Or we'd go to an army base like Shiloh, and we'd tap dance for the men, and it was I loved it. Yeah.
So she kept talking about tap dancing, and we got the ride was over, and we got to the community, and we were saying goodbye, and I said, hey, can you tap dance for me? And she said, let me go get my shoes. And she goes and she gets her tap dance shoes out of her closet. And she had not tap danced for 30 years. For 30 stinking years, she had not tap danced. And just with my cell phone filming it, here's what she did.
I'm Sylvia Horwich from Winnipeg, living now at Baycrest, Neptune Drive, and I love to tap dance. Get your coat and get your hat. It's on the doorstep. Your feet to the sunny side of the street. And hear that and I want to doorstep. So drop at my feet to the sunny side of the street.
Yay, all right. The 60/20 tour has its first tap dancer. Sylvia, you are awesome. Thank you.
And so, the power of that story, and it's what I do. I mean, I don't want to be a shameless shill for RiverWoods at Durham, but there's an art to finding out the joy that each person has. And that to me, the profound or the sad part of that story is that nobody had asked that woman in 30 years about that. She lived there for over 10 years, and nobody had ever asked her, what's her passion? And it's tap dancing. And she had the shoes hidden in her closet. And I just think that's the kind of, getting to know Kelly and the gang there. I just think that's part of their mojo is to draw that out from both the person and the family and make it a part of the whole experience. So that this is the last clip I'll show here is I got to say one of my favorites, that this guy, a Vietnam vet, we'll let him tell his story.
So Dennis, you went to Vietnam.
Vietnam, yes I did.
Vietnam veteran.
Yep.
What was your role in the Army?
My role in the Army was bloodshots.
You were a drill sergeant.
Yes, I was
right?
drill sergeant.
So, Dennis, why don't you yell at Jack like you're a drill sergeant?
Pretend we're doing a drill sergeant. I'm like,
Good.
Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. Like in a driving.
Yeah.
In a driving
I can
mode.
do that.
Do it.
I'd probably. No, not right yet.
Yes, right yet.
So he didn't want to do it. He didn't feel comfortable. He's a drill sergeant, and I was asking him to give me drill sergeant moves and drive, and he wouldn't do it. And that's fine. I don't want to force him to do something he doesn't want to do. But like 5 minutes after this conversation, we were driving into a construction site where they have a whole bunch of barricades set up, and then he becomes the drill sergeant.
Wait a second. What do you think? Looks like we got some trouble. Check it out. We'll turn it there. Okay, Dennis, tell these guys.
Roll the windows down.
Yeah, tell these guys, Dennis. What do you think?
Hey, we need to get through here. Hey. We got radio on here. We got to get through here real quick.
Okay.
Real quick.
That's okay.
We got one sign. That's
Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is where, this is.
Oh no.
Yeah, these guys, this is 60-20. We've already made it around the country. We can do some curb hopping. Dennis, you just made one of the best moves ever with your, hey, we got to get moving.
So those guys, when he started yelling at them, those guys moved everything out of the way, and it was a simple thing, a fun thing, but again, it's profound. That's who he is to his core, and I think that's really kind of the whole message.
Wait a second.
Of the whole experience of the whole 60-20 tour is that whatever preconceived notions that anybody has about people living with dementia, if they go into a different environment and they're in a place that they're allowed to thrive, they can step into who they are, and who they are is still incredibly cool. So obviously, with the pandemic, you can't be driving vans around and doing that stuff. Hopefully that'll change relatively quickly, but I think it's beholden on the community. And RiverWoods can tell you about some of the stuff that they would be planning along those lines. It's just creativity. That's all that it really is just creativity. So that was kind of the core message of what I wanted to get across, is just the joy that's out there for people living with dementia if they are in an environment that allows them to shine. And that being said, there is this whole pandemic. And I didn't want to I know that there's a lot of different folks out there watching. I just wanted to let people know real quickly, we are seeing incredibly cool technology experiences available. This is a community in Southern California that we work with, that the gentleman on the top middle in this picture set up a live stream so that 3:00 every afternoon, the residents can, whether it's sometimes it's 8 and sometimes it's 75, that they're able to stay connected and engaged. There's unbelievable ways that technology is allowing people to stay connected. And there's also all kinds of virtual experiences out there that historically have been something that people charge for, that they're organizations that that normally, $10 a month or whatever, they're just waving it through that to be able to have these experiential things. I've got lots of listings of these things that we'll put in a document for Kelly, and Kelly can get out to all of you as kind of a follow-up to this webinar. But again, the content is relevant for people wherever they are cognitively, but there really are a lot of things out there that are relevant for just ways to stay engaged. I see it myself with I have 3 kids in their 20s, all living in different states, and we're doing a web chat every week, and we're playing a board game online every week. We weren't doing that stuff before, so I just think that there's silver linings through COVID of ways to communicate, whether it's from a senior living experience or just what we're doing in our lives. And I saw this last week and had to add it, that we're a customer of ours in Nebraska is having virtual horse visits, that the horses come up and say hi to the folks that can't get out. So I'm not sure how easy that would be to choreograph in New Hampshire, but hey, you guys are creative. I'm sure you'll give anything a try if you think that it works. Just a real quick snapshot about IN2L is that we're all about different ways to engage people through content that's relevant for older adults, and also just keep them engaged, keep them moving. It's whether you can use it as a therapy tool, you can use it as an activity tool. The systems that you're seeing, they're going to be a part of RiverWoods when they open different parts of their building. So you can make something easy and for different levels of cognition, but you don't have to make it demeaning. And that's really what we're all about, is customizing the content to make it relevant for where people are cognitively. And it's all about joy. And we're doing that through those big systems, and we also do it through tablets, where that picture on the left, a person can have their own experience, and when they touch their icon, it can open up to video clips and pictures and things that the family members can be sending in very seamlessly and easily, just to keep them connected, engaged, and feeling relevant. So it's been a delight to see the creative ways that through COVID, our customers are just having to do activities differently, having to do experiences differently. But we're seeing them. We're seeing if there's creativity on behalf of the staff, there's ways to make that happen. And I don't want to speak for RiverWoods and Kelly, but I know that the people that we've met there are certainly embraced the whole concept of what's the way to get to the person's spirit. And technology is one component to it, but there's a whole bunch of other components to it as well that are kind of fun to see. So just wrapping up, before turning it back over to Kelly, that there's lots of different ways to still see that there's joy to be had with dementia. There's creative connections are still possible through COVID. And I just think I'm not sure who all the audience is, but if you're choosing a community for your mom or dad, I would just say, and I'm not saying this to hype either RiverWoods or to hype IN2L, make sure that the communities are investing in engagement technology and investing in these tools to keep mom or dad connected to the families. That there's no excuse now not to do it. There's too many ways to do it. And we're honored that RiverWoods is choosing us to be the solution to do that with. So that's all I had, Kelly. I think I hit the time frame that I committed to. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or if you want to just kick it over to your
Sure. Before we go into questions and answers, thank you, Jack. That was an incredible presentation. I just wanted to remind our viewers that next week our webinar features Ann Romney, who is from the Alzheimer's Association, and her topic will be effective communication strategies for caregivers. So that's next Thursday, June 18th at 1:00. So call that number there if you'd like to register, if that's of interest to you. And of course, I just wanted to go to question and answers. Let me see what we have here. It looks, someone asked, how will It's Never Too Late be used at Newfound Lodge? So at the beginning of the presentation, I did talk about our health center here at RiverWoods Durham, Newfound Lodge, which will be opening this fall. So we will have this technology here. And what's nice is, as Jack said, it can be used in a memory support program, traditional assisted living, even independent living residents. There's many, I've used it in the past. I was telling Jack, I had been a recreation director myself, and there's so many programs. It's really amazing. It's almost like if you have an interest, they have it on It's Never Too Late. An example I'll use, I even had a resident who was suffering from dementia, but she loved playing solitaire. So she actually used It's Never Too Late individually. The staff could set her up, and she really enjoyed playing that. So it can also be used, especially right now where we have to social distance, it can be used by an individual as well.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Kelly, that I think that, as you were alluding to, that every person, the real key to our success is that every person has their own experience. That the music that I like is probably going to be different than Kelly likes, unless Kelly really likes Bruce Springsteen. If she really likes Bruce Springsteen, then maybe we'd have the same taste. But it's not about it's not about a one size fits all. It's what makes that person click. And what's cool about it is that the family members remotely can be a part of building that whole experience and sending in the videos and sending in pictures and such that to make it unique for their mom or dad.
Oh, great. And another question here, any tips on how to encourage someone who isn't very experienced using technology to adapt to using it now during the social distancing?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if the question refers to someone that's in a community or living at home. What we've seen over the years of people living in a community is there's always a range of people that embrace technology and those that don't. And what we've found is that rather than trying to kind of force it down the throat of the people that don't really get it or engage with it, is with the people that do get it, when residents who don't get it see their peers, other residents, like doing a video chat with their granddaughter, all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, how do I do that? So I think it's more, I think the connection to grandkids has probably been the biggest thing that we've seen as a way to get kind of skeptical, what do I need this for, older adults, enthused about it. And so again, if it's a person living, I just think it's a puzzle to put together of what matters to that person. And for for my mom, it was saying the rosary, that was, so it would be making it easy for her to say the rosary online. For my dad, it would have been the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So, everybody has their thing. And I think, but usually grandkids and staying connected with family is everybody's thing. And especially through COVID, we've seen people being willing to get out on the limb a little bit more because they see it's the only way they can stay connected. Right.
And another question, could you give an example of It's Never Too Late for how you would use that in a memory support community? Let's say for group activities, like what are some of the programs that you might use?
Yeah, let me go back to this picture here. It's like, we have what you're looking at on the left, that's one of our, it's a television that we mount a computer to the back. So it goes back and forth between being a regular television and our content. So it's hard to kind of see that picture, but that's a trivia quiz. And so there's 4 choices to pick there. So that person is doing it one-on-one with the resident, but it's incredible. It's incredible for me to see group activities, and sometimes they're larger, sometimes they're just 4 or 5. But to have quizzes, to have a Google Earth, let's put the address in of where you grew up, and all of a sudden everybody, all 4 or 5 people, zoom in to the middle of Iowa for the farm that one of the residents grew up in. There's music, there's spirituality, there's connections out to the local community. if you have creative life enrichment staff, they don't have to spend any time looking for content. We have all the content on the system. So one day it may be, let's sing hymns together. Another day it may be, let's do a trivia quiz about what did something cost in the 40s, and you can pick cars or food or restaurant. For somebody else, it may be, let's go listen to video clips that all the presidents have made starting in the 1930s. So there's no limit to content, and what creative activity staff figure out is what's relevant for that group of people, and then customize the programming to be appropriate. But we have over 4,000 pieces of content on the system that are vetted for older adults, and a lot of it is vetted for people living with dementia. So it's kind of a see it to believe it kind of thing, but it's the content that speaks to it.
And Jack, another thing I wanted to mention, I know that this is also can be used for physical therapy and occupational therapy.
Yep.
So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that and how some rehab programs are using it as well.
Yeah. There's when you go to the main screen, there's different icons, and one of the icons is therapy. And when you click the therapy icon, it opens up to speech, occupational, and physical therapy. And then we've categorized our content to fit what speaks to that discipline. The world of occupational therapy is different than the world of physical therapy. So the content and the quizzes and what's out there, it's designed for that particular discipline. But what's cool about it is, as I was saying before, if a therapist finds that something is relevant for that particular resident in terms of they resonate with it and it's good for their therapy programming, it can go behind their picture. So the next time, maybe it's a new therapist, or maybe it's that you can just touch the person's picture, and there's the game that's appropriate to where they are cognitively. So again, creative therapists, just like creative activity professionals, are what really make that come to life.
Right. Well, I'm really excited that we're going to have that at Newfound Lodge. One of the questions is, can I take a virtual tour of Newfound Lodge? You certainly can. Again, please call me directly we can schedule a virtual tour of Newfound Lodge, so I could show you the different areas in our community that we will be providing with. And the other question is do you have a favorite program? Do you find is there a favorite program that resonates with a lot of different people, since you've been doing this?
I think that, again, what I like about the company is that it can be unique for anybody. But if I had to say, we track the usage of our system, and by far and away, music drives so much, and to be able to have the music, whether it's in the form of Amazing Grace or whether it's in the form of 80s quiz for rock bands. I mean, it's all there. And I just think that you find what resonates with a person and then make it stick. And then when it comes to, it's almost a question of it has nothing to do with aging. We all have different, I like to do board games, but maybe you don't. And so I think that we just try to make the content there so robust and so much breadth to it that you'll be able to find something for anybody. But music resonates throughout the whole spectrum.
Right. Well, I think we're getting to the end here, and I just wanted to thank you, Jack. I mean, I think, again, we're so excited that we'll have It's Never Too Late, these programs here in our new health center. Really excited to use the technology. And again, I think you really showed that, there is joy along this journey, and just watching your video clips and really seeing, folks with dementia really come to life through music. Just wonderful. I was even crying on some of your videos, just at the joy that was really coming out from these folks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I specifically for this presentation kind of picked the clips that were lighthearted and fun, but there were a few that I was so moved by, and I know it's hard to explain, but it became very intimate, just these little drives, and the people they had so much that they wanted to share. And I just think being in a different environment that they weren't feeling helpless in, it all just came out. And it was such an honor for me to be able to experience that.
Right. And Jack, if you could just give us your website, because I know if people really enjoyed those videos, that you have more on your website that you have.
Sure. It's, there's, you know what I'll do is I'll say that right now, but also we have about 100 of those videos if you really want to spend a lot of time, but I'll put the link to all those clips in the follow-up email that you send out. But our website is www.in2l.com, as you see it there on the screen.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, I wanted to thank you so much. And this has just been such a wonderful presentation. We hope that you viewers really enjoyed this as well. And again, we'll see you next week for our next webinar. So, Jack, thank you so much.